Good morning, everybody. This is Don Yoakum, and today we are with Tahoe Tony, which, by the way, Tony, I absolutely love that branding, partly because Lake Tahoe is one of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion, but it really anchors you to that. And maybe I know we're going to be talking about relationship-based marketing today, but will you start off just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in the area, and why you've made it your home for your real estate practice?
Thanks, Don. Good morning, everybody, and happy holidays and everything. Everything's coming up. I'm super excited. I've been in real estate for 26 years. I was raised near Placerville, California, which is an hour and a half away from Tahoe. So Tahoe was always one of those special places in my life. And then I left college and went to Europe for 3 years to train for fencing, and I kind of ran out of money. And one of my friends there was an American. His name was Jim Kelly, and he owned a casino in Lake Tahoe, and he offered me a job bartending. So that's how I got to Tahoe. I messed around for about 10 years, having fun. 7 years. And then I
Hold
decided
on
that it
a
was time to,
sec there.
okay.
You said something though. You said a couple things though that I want to ask you about. One of them was about the fencing, because I have
Mhm.
a theory that people that reach some level of achievement in actually any field, whether it be sports or music, but they take it to a high competitive level, that those things then help you to become more successful in the real estate business. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, my coach was a world champion Olympic windsurfer, and he's done really well.
Yeah, but
Everybody
what
knows I'm talking
about
about
you?
Don now. Well, when you're training for something and you're committed, you learn to do the tough things, and it becomes, I don't want to say everything, because it wasn't everything to me, but it was so much, and it was so fun to, the reason I moved to Europe is because they were the best in the world. It's kind of like coming to EXP. The agents here are the best in the world, and they're willing to share. Um, and so it was just an awesome opportunity. And once you start achieving like that, and you start winning competitions, and you gain confidence, and you realize, okay, I need to work hard. And once I start working hard, I'm going to then get the capabilities. And now that I have the capabilities, I'm going to win. Now I have the confidence. What's the next level I can go to? And I look at just about everything I do with that same kind of attitude now. It's just so kind of building up with all the hard work and successes. It just makes you realize you can do whatever you want if you are with the right people and the right coaching and training, and you create that path. You're only limiting yourself if you don't. So yes,
Yeah.
and like some of the people that you talk about that are super wealthy, that are my clients, they've had similar lives where they've done similar things. And look at some of the EXP agents who are like ex-football players or whatever. They just have that attitude where it's like, just go get it done, go get them. So yes, it definitely
Yeah,
helps.
yeah, absolutely. I just feel like when one has achieved a high level of anything, that's also an indication that they're coachable, right? And they get what you're saying now, which is essentially the concept of modeling success, right? I mean, today we're talking to you about relationship-based marketing because we want people to be able to emulate some of the strategies that you've deployed successfully with your clientele. Especially, I think a lot of us, myself included, honestly, when I got into real estate, part of it maybe is because I was a little young, but I was a little intimidated to talk to luxury clientele, right? Was I driving a nice enough car, or did I have proper English, or, I mean, just did I not go to the right schools? I mean, how do you navigate all that? But okay, so fencing in Europe, that's cool. And then
Hmm.
came back to Tahoe through a job. And where did life lead you from there?
Well, like I said, I spent several years rock climbing, snowboarding, kayaking, just loving life because I didn't have any responsibilities. I was just working at night. So I had my days free. And then I just kind of started getting older and realizing that I can't do this forever, because you see those guys in Tahoe that have never had a real job, and they don't, they're 50 years old and they don't have anything. They don't own a house or anything. So I decided to, get going, and just, I've always loved real estate. Even as a kid, one of my dad's friends was a realtor, and I was always curious how it worked. So that was a natural draw to me. And in our town at the time, there wasn't a lot of jobs. Basically, you could start a company or you can work in the service industry. Those were the two avenues back in the late 90s in Incline Village.
Yeah. Well, now, and then I know you bought a ranch, and then lo and behold, we had just a little correction in the market. A lot of us call that the crash of 2008. But why don't you just talk about what it took for you to get through that?
I was having such a good day. Thanks, Don. It was difficult. We bought our ranch in the fall of 2006 and put our house on the market and took everything we had to get the ranch and then some. And it was a struggle. I ended up getting another job just to get by. I actually had two other jobs to get by because real estate was so slow. But I didn't quit real estate. I would work at nights in restaurants so I can work real estate during the day. And then I did have a construction job in the wintertime, which was horrible. I don't know if you've ever been outside on, rolling dirt on a roller and it's 3 degrees. It was miserable. I'm really glad to get my feet back on the ground. But we lived in a trailer, a camping trailer, and we didn't have electricity. So we had a generator, and we would use the generator to charge the batteries, like in the evening when my wife would come home from work, and charge the batteries and hope it would make it through the night. And it didn't always. Sometimes I have to get up in the middle of the night and charge the batteries again to get the heater going. So it was a challenge, but I'm really glad I did it. I'm really glad I had that fortitude and got it done, and I'm really glad I had a wife who was willing to do that with us, because it was her dream too. So that helped, because we were both committed. And I think that was probably a big key, is that we were both committed to getting this and keeping it, because it was both of our dreams even before we met. Like, she's laughing when we met. She goes, "Why do you have a saddle?" Because I was living in like this little house in Tahoe and nowhere near horses. And I told her I love horses. She goes, "Oh, me too." And so there's just one of those things we have in common. It's great. So it was a dream. And I think that helps too. When you're really committed, it really helps you get through the tough times, because it would have been real easy to commit or quit. But
Yeah.
the fact that we didn't have anywhere to go either, we didn't have a backup plan, because nobody would have bought our ranch at that time. So it was all or nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I asked you to share that story too, because I think a lot of people right now are kind of going, holy cow, the business is not what it was 6 months ago. And, a lot of us are having to pull up our bootstraps and kind of suck it up a bit. And, we heard, I don't know if you were on Brent's 1% Club when he interviewed Leo Robles, but when he joined us, he scaled down and actually sold his Mercedes and got himself a economical car. And
What was it? A Prius, I think, right?
yeah, he went from
and
a
his girlfriend
Mercedes
hated
to a
it. It was
Prius,
wrapped, and his girlfriend was embarrassed to ride in it.
right?
And she's not embarrassed anymore, is she?
No, well, now he's got a Tesla, and he's got I think about a 1,500 person organization. But I'd love for people to hear those stories, because, we think, oh, geez, look at him, he's living up in Tahoe and he's got it, you got to Tahoe because you took a job as a bartender, and you've been doing tough jobs, and it was tough for you. And, just so we look at people and we think, oh, geez, yeah, well, if I had it like them, but you don't realize, be careful what you ask for, because some of them had it tough, right? And difference is they just stuck with it.
That's one of my jokes my wife has. People are like, "Wow, you guys are so lucky to live here." And we just kind of look at each other and laugh, because they weren't there using an outhouse for 3 years to go to the bathroom. We we stuck with it. We're committed. We sacrificed to get it, and we're happy we have it because it is really magnificent. But
Yeah.
and it's kind of like building your rev share organization is not easy, but it's worth it. It's a struggle, but once you get up there, I'm nowhere near that area I want to be, but once you get up there, boy, all the wonderful things you can do once you have that built, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think also you're talking about um, a different kind of income, right? I mean, like I know you've now gone on to succeed at a very high level in your personal real estate practice, making somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year. But recurring income is, I get to step off the treadmill type life, right? And it's a
Mhm.
different kind of experience that we have. And I'm just grateful that we all have that here at EXP. So now as you dove into let's get into really building your business, because I feel like you have a bit of a unique situation because a lot of your clientele actually is not local, right? These are second homes for them, and they're rather affluent. And I know from coaching you that you're not necessarily looking at your database, making 5 calls a day, but you are making the calls. So would you talk about that? If if you're calling someone in your sphere, what usually prompts you to do that? And then what does that communication look and sound like?
So when I drive, I start thinking about my sphere and people, because when I'm in a transaction, like I don't do a million transactions like somebody in a metro area where like the top realtor in Las Vegas is Aaron Taylor, the real estate guy with EXP, and he does over 300 transactions a year. And he separates his database into like A, B, C, D, and the A's and A pluses are the people he's getting referrals from. And so those are the ones he focuses on. He sends something out to everybody, but he makes the calls to his top people. And so I have few enough people that they're all my A plus type clients. And so I just think back and who I haven't talked to in a while, and I'll call them. And if they don't, like yesterday, I made 2 calls and neither one of my clients answered. And so I didn't leave a voicemail. I just sent them a text message. Say, hey, I was thinking of you. I tried to call, you didn't answer. Let me know, we can chat. I'd love to catch up. And so I'll do that when I'm driving, and I can do it hands-free. So, because you spend a lot of time in a car as a realtor, it seems like. And so I'm either
Mhm.
listening to Tony Robbins or Dean Graciosi, or one of the 1% Club calls. I'm listening to that again or something, or I'm making calls. And so I'm not just sitting in the car, getting mad at traffic or something like that. So I try and make it productive,
Sure.
but I don't have like a system. I'm not a big system person, which is probably a weakness, definitely. But um, I just try and reach out to them. If I'm going for a hike, a lot of times I'll be thinking about my clients and I'll do a little video, especially if the Lake Tahoe's in the background. I'll just take my cell phone and say, hey, Virginia, it's Tahoe Tony. We haven't talked in a while. I was just thinking of you up here in Tahoe. When you coming up, let's have lunch. Because people don't live there, and so you never know when they're in town. And a lot of times when they're in
Sure.
town, they're there with family and friends, and they don't really want their realtor involved. So you leave
Right.
it up to them to let you know when they're available.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and of course, I would love to have you one day get to a point where you were being a little more intentional about the number of people that you were calling and so forth. But I think what really distinguishes you from so many others is that you're really having personal. Oh, somebody needs to mute. Hold on a sec. Sorry, guys. Jeez. Okay, that should be better. I feel
So
like you're really having personal communication. Do you want to speak more about that?
yes, when I started out in real estate, I would work real estate in the day and restaurants at night, which I'm really glad I did because it was a really nice, the Hyatt's restaurant down on the water. And so my first several clients were people I met at the restaurant, and I'd built a rapport with them as a server or bartender. And so they trusted me. And I think that was a huge step because people ask me, how do you get into luxury real estate? And I'm like, well, sell somebody $1 million house. My first sale was $1 million. It was a $1.1 million. So that helps. And then I've watched like I knew who the most successful realtors were in our towns. It's a very small town. We probably had 250 realtors in the town at the time and 9,000 parcels, about 10,000 people. So a lot of competition. So I could see, and the successful realtors were always coming in the restaurants with clients. And so I realized that they're building relationships with their clients. They're not just servicing their clients and saying thank you, sayonara, goodbye. They're actually very personal with them. And so when I'm in the transaction, like if I get a client and I start showing them property, my main goal is not to find them the house. My main goal is to build a relationship with them, build up that rapport until they trust me. Because a lot of times people move to Nevada for the state income tax. We don't have state income tax. And 80% of my business is coming from California. So a lot of times the people are like, I'm going to retire. I'm going to sell my business in a couple of years. I want to go up to Tahoe and look around. So chances are they're not going to find the house that day. Chances are they just want to look at the town. And so I'll show them the different amenities, show them the different neighborhoods, just talk to them and try and build up rapport with them. Because I know that it's going to be 6 months or a year before they ever buy. And so I realize I have to build that relationship, because in 26 years, only twice has somebody bought something the weekend they came up.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh, you know what you just made me think about is what I hear you saying is I get in relationship with these people, then they sell a business and then they retire up here. Man, how cool would it be if you did a expert panel event with a business broker, with an estate planner, right? Maybe a CPA,
Mm-hmm.
and you talked and you promoted it throughout the Bay Area, right?
I
And
was just, as you were talking, like, that's a great idea to promote in California.
right,
Because a
yeah,
lot of
and
small
what you
business
could
owners are
do.
trying to get out.
Well, exactly, right? So what you could do is you could do the expert panel event with Bay Area folks. And another thing that you could do is you could actually align yourself with a Bay Area agent that was in the luxury space, right? That would also promote the event and then become a referral partner with you. You probably have some Bay Area agents that refer you now.
I haven't tapped into that resource. I've tried. I've mailed letters, I've created packets and picked out luxury agents. Like one of my mentors did that, where he went down to the Bay Area for the weekend and he picked out the top 30 agents in each area and he met with them, and it didn't work. So it's kind of like just that one impression wasn't enough. So I think doing an event with someone where they can market it as well, and then you're building a relationship with that agent instead of meeting them one time at their office for a 20-minute presentation, that falls flat. But I like your idea of creating an event where they're part of it, and now you have this almost like a joint venture going on. And I think that's really smart. And of course,
Yeah, well, and I think,
there's going to be
go ahead.
people in Nevada that want that business as well. And I'm trying to figure out how to get financial advisors, because that's, somebody wants to sell their business, they go to their financial advisor, their CPA, and say, well, what do I do? And if I could be that person that financial advisor says, here, call Tahoe Tony, that would be huge. So I've actually tried that. I've created packets and sent them to financial advisors as well. There's a similar packet that he sent to the other agents, and again, it fell flat. So I realized one touch isn't enough. It's something you got to really get the people involved in.
My experience with aligning with high-end professionals like that is they will not respond to cold calls or mail. You have to come in by relationship. Okay? And so one of the things that happens though is you're not to, because now you have a pretty decent clientele of high net worth individuals, both in Nevada and California.
Mm-hmm.
do is ask them, who is the best financial advisor that you know? Who is the best
Hmm.
CPA that you know? Do you know of a great estate attorney? Right. And so when you call in a financial advisor and you say, yeah, we have a mutual acquaintance in Sam Smith, and he knows Sam Smith has $100 million net worth. Now you have his attention,
Great point.
right?
I just wrote
And
that down.
so, perfect. So go in with relationship, right? And the other thing, everyone wants a good excuse to vacation in Incline. So hosting an event with those financial advisors in person and doing a little, you know, weekend retreat at the Hyatt or something like that and tie it into that could be really fun. But
Hmm.
so I particularly wanted these guys to hear though, because I know when you have these meals, you're sitting there having meals with somebody that, might have a $50 million net worth and different places and all this. How do you manage conversation?
Well, first of all, you can't go in with the belief system that this person is superior or better. A lot of these people are very down
Okay.
to earth. And if you come in providing value to them and it's somebody they can trust, they need you. And I look at it, they need you because they have so many things going on in their lives with their business, their families, selling a business, buying a business. They've got several homes. Some of them are in international places. I was thinking the other day, several of my clients have homes outside of the United States. And so if they can
Mhm.
find somebody they can trust who will do a good job for them when they say, get this done or find me this, you take so much a load off of their plate. They really, really appreciate you. And so if you come in with that
Yeah.
attitude that I'm going to do a great job, obviously you don't bragging, but you just come in with that confidence, like this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do for you. You don't say it. You just have that air about you. And then you don't necessarily talk about real estate unless they want to. And if they want to ask you questions, obviously know your market, know your numbers, think about, like I always think of like, hey, I can relate this market to the market of 2002 when we had the dot-com crash or whatever. And we did this. Oh, I remember when we had the presidential election, people were in a wait and see attitude. Let's do this. And so I'm knowledgeable and they appreciate that. So I up on like economist reports and I stay, obviously I know the numbers and such. So when I'm meeting with them, I have value, but I like, they say don't EXP on people, don't EXP real estate on people as well. I'm just having a lunch with them and I ask them questions about their family, about their kids, and how's business going. And sometimes they don't want to talk about business because they're bored of business. They would rather talk about the new boat they got. And I always want to talk about the boat because a lot of times they'll invite me out there. Or, it's like, they're like, hey, Tony, the guy's coming to get my boat. Can you run down there and make sure, it's tied up or whatever, so I'm there for them. So I'm like their concierge. So, and that's the attitude I go in with. And so I don't go in like, oh, these people are way up here, because I used to. And when I first started, I made that mistake. I'm like, oh, who am I to tell this multimillionaire what to do? But then I realized, wait, my job is to be their real estate expert. So I'm the one advising them on real estate. And once I had that, it was a big shift for me.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started creating relationships with people. And a few of them told me, like, look, Tony, I've got so many things going on. I need you there to take care of this for me. I'm like, Bill, you got this. I'm all over this. And I don't do a million transactions either. And I think they respect that because I'm there. And if they call me, if they need something, which is usually at night after they've taken care of everything, they'll call me. But last year I did 17 transactions for 25 million. So it's not like I have 6 or 7 escrows going all the time. And that helps in the luxury market.
Sure. So I heard a few things there. I'm a real estate resource. So if they need a painter, plumber, roofer, landscaper, I'm going to source that for them. Right. I make sure that I'm attuned to the market so that I can give them a legitimate market update. I don't know if you do this, but it would probably be wise of you to do some kind of quarterly market update on the region and the stats. And actually, you might consider co-authoring something like that with a financial advisor, CPA, a state attorney. And that would be yet
That's a
another
great idea.
reason. If you get a distribution list of affluent people and you did a market update, and then you can say, hey, I'm only going to have one CPA in this deal, and I'll allow you to co-author a piece. That's one more lever point that you could use to align with them. The and I also heard that doing things that are way out of your job description is part of your role, which is, making sure that the boat is tied up properly or whatever,
Mhm.
Um,
Opening the house because they're having furniture delivered. I do that, or I'll have, one of my assistants do that. And the people appreciate that. They're very appreciative. So
right.
it's not like they're using me. I don't work with those kind of clients, but
Yeah.
when you're
Well, and
making
you guys, if
$60,000 to sell a house, you've got time to help them out too.
sure. Well, and I think on a smaller scale, perhaps, you guys, I want you to be thinking, I want to challenge you actually in every single transaction. I want you to do something that you did not bargain for. Okay. So, one of the things to understand about building a referral based business is that when you do what you say, that entitles you the opportunity to do business again with that person. The way that you get referral business is when you exceed the expectations that you set by the client. And the extent that you exceed those expectations is what you can usually proportionally expect to receive in referrals. So the more under-promising and over-delivering you're doing, the more raving fans that you're going to have. And, as part of my tribe, I'm trying to get you all to 300 people that are in your sphere that consider you a real estate resource, their realtor of choice. Okay. But one thing else to keep in mind is just about every single one of them has their own sphere of 150 people. Okay. That means pretty much people know, if people move every 10 years, they know 15 people that are going to buy or sell a home in the next year. Okay. But you don't ever hear about those unless you reach raving fan status. Right. So, Tony, one of the things I know you like getting invited on the boats. One of the things that I do know about those type of folks, even though I don't put myself in that class, is that yet, is that they like connecting with other people. So what do you do about helping them get to know other people? Is there anything that you do in that regard to help them feel like they've got some locals besides yourself that they can, connect and do things with?
Yeah, so one of the things I do on my tour, first time I take people out, is I take them to our community center, which is our recreation center, has indoor swimming pool, basketball courts, volleyball courts, and they teach a lot of classes there. And there's a whole wall of different clubs, dancing, hiking, stand-up paddleboard, whatever. People are doing it as a community. And so I let people know that there's a lot to do here as a community, and I'm happy to help you get involved. And most of the people that come in our town are self-starters. So rarely do I have to hold anybody's hand, but I like to. And when they come into town, I'll always try and take them out to lunch again and ask them how it's going. And usually I'm shocked because they're like, oh, I joined this club and we met our neighbor and we went golfing with these people. And because they're used to networking. Like you said, they're used to networking. And so, and then I'll do events at my office on a regular basis, at least once a quarter. I'll have an event in my office and I'll invite them down. And then if I have another client there that's interesting, they may have similar, like one of my clients was a pitcher at Stanford. And then another one of my clients I met was just a huge baseball fan. He knows like every score of every World Series, everybody's batting average. He's one of those crazy guys. And I'll just introduce them and start talking. And I don't try and be like the match setter, but I'll just start talking, and then they become friends and they go golfing, and now they have a friendship. So it is a little bit of matchmaking, but not as much as you'd think, because these people are self-starters and they get it done themselves. But I do try and make sure they're comfortable, because then they're happy. And if they're happy, then they're happy with me, kind of happy in the situation, I guess. If they're not happy, then everything looks bad. So, but most importantly, they need, like you said, that list of vendors, a good contractor, a good house cleaner, because they don't always like to rely on me. They try and get somebody like a personal assistant in town that they can rely on. And a lot of times they'll ask me for somebody like that. So, but I'm generally surprised, because they are all go-getters and they get started. So probably why they're such wealthy people.
Yeah.
But it's fun, just, and then when one of the challenges, they don't live in town. And so I still want to be on their mind. Like, I do send out things on a monthly basis, but nobody reads emails anymore. So I try and go on their Facebook pages and comment on something, or say, oh, two of my clients were in Iceland last week, and I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. And then like, oh wow, you and Mary look so great. How awesome. And these are people that are really good clients of mine. They've bought 2 houses from me and sold one of them. They bought a smaller house for $1 million. They sold it, bought a $2.5 million house, then sold that house for $3.5 million, and bought a lakefront parcel that they knocked the house down and built this big house on. And then I stayed friends with them, and I'm like, okay, they're set. What else I have? So it wasn't about the money. We just stayed friends, as they're nice people. And then when they bought a property in Turks and Caicos, they say, hey, Tony, call this realtor and create a referral for me. This is a good realtor in town, and I want you to get the referral. So I got like $13,000 referral for calling a realtor that there's 2 realtors in Turks and Caicos. So I bought him lunch that day. I bought a $60 lunch.
No kidding.
It helps. And the people like that. People like when you're paying attention to them. They like when we have lunch, we talk about them. And so I just want to be there. I want to be that person they think of when they think of real estate. When they think of Tahoe, they're thinking of me. And so even when they're out of the country and doing things, I'll go on their Facebook pages and just try and comment on a few things. It only takes 10 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, like you say, that's another way to stay connected. You guys, but something else you just triggered for me is, remember, the second call, number 1 call is real estate resource. The second call is, can we have a conversation about your real estate portfolio, right? A term that I heard at a seminar the other day is, I am your real estate wealth manager, basically, right? And one of the things that you want to do, especially when you know that somebody has multiple properties, is you should understand every property that your clients own, what the value, the equity positions, the interest rates, if the market shifts, and they would benefit from a refinance or something like that, you want to have that, you want to bring that to their awareness. If they own property in the Caribbean and that there's a tax event seminar for real estate investors going on, maybe you invite them to that, or whatever the case may be. But make sure that you're having a conversation with your clients about real estate outside of their primary residence. Do they view it as part of their retirement strategy? And if so, what does that look like? Okay, you guys, we're coming up. We're now beyond 6:40. I'd love if you have a question, or if you, what I wanted you to get today is, I wanted you to hear how personal that Tony makes his business, and the relationships that he's building with his clients, right? My belief as we go forward in real estate is that we've always had kind of relationship-based agents, and we've had transactional agents. My belief is that technology is going to largely disintermediate transactional agents. and they're going to be relegated to working for companies like Zillow for 35 bucks an hour. Okay. But relationship-based agents are always going to have a role in the real estate space. And so is there anything that you do with your clientele, maybe that Tony didn't mention, that would be of value to us to hear? Anybody doing something kind of fun with their clientele? Let me look at the list. And if somebody does an offer, I'm going to pick on somebody. Eric Katz, I know you must have a good relationship with your clients. What are you doing to have them feel the love?
How's it going, Eric?
Hey, Tony, it's great. And actually, relationship, I met Tony and I reached out yesterday just to say hi and all that great stuff. So, Tony and I are so similar, but totally different markets, right? He's luxury market. I am like inexpensive first time home buyer market, but the principles are the same. I build a relationship. I just closed with a client on a waterfront property. I searched for him for 2 years and he begged me to stay with him. I said, of course, he's such a nice guy, and market shifted. So I got him an incredible deal on this house. And he's like, oh, you're so important, to help me, want to stay in touch. And just everything that Tony said is very true. So I think it cascades against different market segments. I think it's going to be like, we don't talk about wine and boats, but we talk about, Humvees and dirt bikes or something, it's so the ideas are similar. And so, yeah, it is about the relationship. And, I used to think I couldn't really, not that I didn't, I come from Bay Area luxury market, but you have to find what jives. And I think when you do is you build trust with knowledge, you have knowledge, you're not trying to push an agenda, and that relationship builds over time. And I've always find one of the things that I've been challenged with, and I love your coaching, John, is I realized, and I just realized myself, I am quality over quantity, right? My dialing for dollars, when I meet with somebody, I spent 4 hours on a listing agreement this past week or with a guy about a listing. And then he was in my office every day this past week. And I spent hours and hours, but I'm probably going to have 3 transactions with him and his family, right? So I invest in people and I invest in the time. It's not the cold calling. I don't mind cold calling, but it's not the way my business works, and it doesn't work as well for me. And so I invest in the relationship. So yeah, like you said, it's about it. I moved him in the house. We'll try to grab lunch today. And it really works out well. I love connecting with folks on that.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Eric. Well, and I think you guys, by the way, where the two worlds can meet, in other words, like Patrick has generated a tremendous amount of internet leads over the years. Okay. I'm not concerned about how you met the person. You could have met him via internet lead, open house, door knocking, the supermarket, whatever. Okay. It's where you go from that point that matters. Am I going to look like I have a dollar sign on my forehead, or am I going to feel like I'm in relationship with you? Are you going to show up in my life as a real estate resource? Right? Are you going to connect me to people that add value to my life? Or am I going to be a disposable transaction? That's really the question that I want you guys to be asking. Right? Tony.
It was interesting. I was at a conference and they're talking about in 3 years, 70, and it's some area outside of Chicago, in 3 years, 70% of the people could not name their realtor that they used to purchase their house. And thank goodness for us that is true, because that gives us new leads, right? If they can't remember who the realtor was and that realtor didn't do a good job of staying in touch with them, that's just fresh clients for us that we can build that relationship. It's a blessing. Although I would hope that none of your clients are one of those 80% that can't name you after 3 years.
Well, by the way, you want to know, that's an interesting statistic. And I have heard I'd love to have, if anybody knows this number, but I've heard from NAR that over 80% of the agents from the day they close never talk to the agent again,
Yeah.
ever.
I-
Okay,
I,
so go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say, I believe it. I've seen it where people, it's like our industry is moving from a transactional relationship. And I can just give a point. If somebody's new in real estate, like I started in my market only a couple years ago, and the last two brokers I was with, it was very transactional, not relationship based. But I used that as a key, and I took care of every client. I just mailed out cards. That was a huge, endeavor for me to get my client list together. But I converted those relationships from transactions to personal relationships, and I'm trying to embody it. So what I would implore anybody getting started with, take your clients that you have relationships. You could do that today, and if you invest in those people and those relationships, it absolutely comes back, because a lot of the other agents, they're just transactional. And so we can convert those transactions we did into the relationships. And 100%, invest in that. And that's why I'm never not busy, even in the shifting market. I just got new people to focus on. And by the way, when you do this, so let me tell you, I ran into a guy who was on the other side of a transaction, and I don't want to hold up any time, but by running into him several times over the years, he had realtor relationships that were just transactions. And that's the guy I spent a lot of time with. And he's one of the largest landowners up here. And I invested it. And now he's going to be my client. And he's been.
You guys, and we'll wrap up with this, is that if somebody buys a home in your market, whether you represent them or not, don't be afraid to welcome them to the community, and maybe into a community event, not a personal event if you weren't their agent in that transaction, but you could welcome them to the community and maybe give them a list of community events that are coming up over the next 90 days. And just say, hey, welcome to the community. I'm a local real estate resource, and here's some events. Maybe I'll see you at one of them. It sounds like you do something similar, Tony.
Well, there's always concerts.
For
There's always concerts in town, or we're getting ready to have Winterfest right after the holidays. We'll have Winterfest. And so I'll invite my client to that now so that they can plan on coming up. Like, hey, like I'm going to Tahoe. I'll shoot a video. It's finally sunny out, and I'll shoot a video, because you don't want to do it when it's cloudy. It doesn't look good. But when it's sunny out, I'm like, hey, we're having Winterfest, Uralfest, or I never say it. I call it Winterfest. From January 3rd to January 11th, try and come up. I'd love to see you. Let's go party. And, depending on who they are. And I personalize it for each one, because like I said, I don't have that many clients, so I can afford to do that. And I'll be like, if they like wine or not, or, if they like glug or whatever it is. Right. And so I just personalize it for them. And again, they like that. And again, I'm like, hey, I've got tickets to 9 and Wine, which is a really fun little golf tournament we do once a month. And I'll just buy a bunch of them, knowing that there's going to be clients in town that we can go with. And if you go golf and have wine with somebody, I mean, you're in there. You just go up so many levels. And unless, you're an idiot or a jerk, if you're a jerk, you're probably not on this call. So we don't have to worry about that. But if you're a good person and you care about them, they're going to really appreciate you, especially if you invite them to a fun event.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, certainly you got a few ideas there on how to build and maintain relationships in your business. Speaking of which, we've got Christmas coming up, and then my question to you guys is, I'm happy to do a training next week if it's important to you, or do you think we should take that time for the holiday? What's the consensus? That'll be Christmas is on Sunday. Normally we do this training on Tuesday. So what do you guys think? Skip it, going for dial for dollars.
No.
Oh, Russell is, yeah. Go ahead.
I'll be working, so if you're here, I'll be here, but otherwise.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'll be working next week. It's always good to chat. I love our conversations. Maybe having an open floor, like business, what we're doing next year or something.
What we could do is what if I opened it up and just had people share what their business plans are for 2023? And we kind of strategize on,
Oh,
what
I think
different
Don
people are
froze.
doing to adapt to this market. What'd you say, Tony?
Oh, my connection's bad. You froze. Sorry. It's me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself available then. And we'll do ProInsight next week. And what I want you to do is I want you to come prepared with your business plan and share, at least be willing, able to share your number one business source that you're pursuing, and then your number one strategy for your sphere of influence. Hopefully you got something from the call. Sound like a deal? Okay.
Yep, sounds great.
All right. And meanwhile, everybody have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week. Tony,
Merry
thank you so
Christmas. Thank
much.
you.
Go to Dial for
Thank
Dollars.
you.
We need more
Merry
people.
Christmas. Thank you so much, Don.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Tony.
Yeah, by the way, you guys, some of the folks are chiming out right now to go for Dial for Dollars. So every day, Monday through Friday, we're at www.dialfordollars.live. Okay, thanks. And
Thank you.